Linda Cook.
Joined the meeting.
Melissa, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Is there music playing on the back in the background of this for anybody? Okay, I'll be back. I got to see what's playing music.
Ernie, I have ringing in my ears too.
I knew that was coming. How's it going, Jeff?
Well, all things considered. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best it can be right now.
I get these high points when I'm running down the road to say hi to friends, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's always nice to see you running. It makes me feel good to see you running.
Well, you know, I was blessed today when a friend's son said, "Wait a minute, you're Michael Goodrich's brother? Are you 15 years older than him?" "No, I'm only 1 year older than him." "Oh my gosh, time has not done well by you."
Wow, I wouldn't talk to that person so much in the future.
No, it was great. He was empathetic. He was commiserating. He was offering to provide care going forward. It was great.
Okay, well, the care part. Yeah, I've never seen your brother, so I can't speak to his observation.
Okay.
Hey, Ernie,
Yeah.
your open mouth reminds me of a Star Wars movie. There you go.
Which
Just
character?
saying.
Good evening. Which character?
Well, it was when the Millennium Falcon was hiding on a planet in one of the caves.
In a galaxy far away.
Okay, this is strange.
You still hearing the music, Ernie?
Yes.
Hey, Jackie.
This is totally strange.
Good evening, everybody. We've got a quorum.
Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, I did have something I wanted to add to the agenda. We wanted to go ahead in the letter that you approved for me to send out on the 16th. We just wanted to go ahead and have the Planning Commission as a whole ratify, adopt, and confirm that letter. Can I get a motion to amend the agenda to include that?
As a point of order, the first item on the agenda is the agenda. So let's talk about the agenda. And if we're going to modify the agenda, let's do it subsequently.
Okay, is there anything else that do we
So,
want to approve
Thank you.
the agenda?
So I'd like, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I'd like to modify the agenda to add as an item
Wait,
consideration of,
as a point of order,
Yeah.
somebody needs to move to accept the agenda. Somebody seconds, then we discuss the agenda. Let's do this the right way, please.
with all due respect, I thought we were doing it the right way, but if you want to do it that way, fine. Go ahead. Because I don't understand why we can't talk about changing the agenda before we do the motion, but if you want to do a motion, that's
The
fine.
only way to engage a change in the agenda is to make a motion to second and then have discussion. Otherwise, the agenda cannot change. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to adhere to Robert's rules.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. You made a motion, Jeff. Did I hear you or?
No, not me.
Okay, would someone else like to make a motion to approve the agenda? Jackie? Or are you muted?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Leah, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Wait, no, we can't.
No,
Oh,
wait,
discussion.
we
Sorry, sorry.
gotta amend it.
Okay, too many meetings today.
I don't know why, in any event, I would like to suggest that we modify the agenda to add an item to formally approve or to vote on whether or not to ratify the letter from Melissa Horowitz with regard to the open meeting law issue.
Jeff Goodrich.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up to say, because that's not included in the packet, I don't think we can discuss it tonight. I also want to talk about the formation of agendas. We've talked about adding, for instance, an after action review or consideration of our thoughts about the town plan stuff for some time. That hasn't occurred. There are a number of other items. For me personally, when I looked at comments from Doug Wilberding about conflict of interest with respect to me and Brandy Saxon, these are important things that to me should go on the agenda so we understand what the implications are. So I'd like to talk about how we address agendas going forward. Furthermore, I'd also like to talk about committee appointments, because I see the question of an appointment to the Child Care Committee tonight, and I'd like to talk about how appointments get made, so that when we talk about appointments, the commission could consider who might be interested, how they're offered. The commission as a whole might address those issues. I would like to turn around the prior circumstances where the chair is appointing folks. I don't think that's in keeping with all of my experience on the Planning Commission, nor is it conducive to a collaborative process. So I'd like to include all of these things in consideration of agendas going forward.
Okay, and I will acknowledge that this agenda changed greatly from its original form because of the circumstances that we're in. Those things will all be moved forward. This isn't, my dream way of spending a planning commission meeting either, but there's certain things that have to be dealt with, and that's why they're on. But as always, I hope the next meeting going forward will be back to the regular agenda and can put these things on.
I think Rod had his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Rod.
I think Jeff mentioned that the letter that you signed in response to the complaint was not included in the packet, and in fact that it is. I just printed the packet off from the town website, and it's included in the packet.
Hey, Melissa, I misspoke. I meant on the agenda. It is in the packet. It is not on the agenda.
Okay, and that's why I was,
we're having this discussion, I think, yeah.
I would, with all due respect, and I'm staff, but I think it pertains to item number 7.
Well, that does raise a question of whether we could just consider it as part of item number 7 without modifying the agenda.
that's fine with me. I mean, we may have to move into executive session for number 7, so we would just have to come out of executive session to ratify it. But if everyone's comfortable with that and anyone wants to make a motion to that effect, that would be great. We can move forward.
Why do we need a motion if we're just going to consider it under number 7?
Okay, fair enough. I just want to.
I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me.
Okay, great. So our meeting objectives today are to.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
There needs to be a vote on the agenda, Melissa. I'm sorry.
Right. And
Okay.
Can I just ask, was there any item on Mr. Goodrich's list that we wanted that we thought we might have time to tackle today, or do we want to just schedule
I-
that for a subsequent meeting?
When I was planning the agenda, I changed it completely because of the things that we have to deal with, and it's uncertain how long they will take. And now it seems a little too late to add it to the agenda. So my focus would be getting the work we need to get done. And next meeting, hopefully being able to have a planning commission meeting where we get back to our regular work.
Well, can I ask that at least, I mean, maybe it's already on the agenda, I need to see that we, yeah, under item 9, that we give some consideration very specifically to whatever it is that he's proposing and make some decisions about what will be on the next agenda.
Of course, yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Then, sorry, then, Melissa, given what you just said, can I make a motion to switch items 6 and 7? And we'll get, we'll get to 6 if we have time.
As a point of order, Brian can suggest that the person who moved to do the agenda can make that motion with a second follow-up, which is fine. We've already got a motion on the table. We have to vote on the motion. So if Jeff and Jackie are willing to change their motion, say, I accept the agenda, or make a motion to approve the agenda and flip these guys as Brian just suggested, then we can proceed forward. Otherwise, we're gonna have to vote up or down as is. Just trying to do this the right way, folks.
You kind of lost me there. Are you suggesting that Jackie modify her motion to accommodate the switch?
Jeff, what I'm saying is Brian can't make a motion with a motion on the table. So the person that made the motion and then seconded can either modify their motion so we can proceed, or we vote on the motion that is on the table.
Got it.
Jackie, are you comfortable modifying your motion?
Yes, yes, I am. Mhm.
Okay.
And Leah seconded it.
Technically, I was the second, and I am happy to second that modification.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing
Nay.
Jeff. Okay, we've got, and Brian, I didn't,
I'm an aye.
okay, thank you.
So
Ron,
Melissa, can I just confirm? So that was 6-1 to approve the amended agenda, and the only amendment to the agenda is to switch the place of 6 and 7.
Correct.
Reverse that order. Is that
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
okay, so I think we're good on the agenda. Let's move forward to the meeting objectives. We're going to follow up response on the allegations that the 2020 town plan is based on actions that violated the open meeting law made by Commissioner Ciccatelli and Mr. Richards and Mr. Wilderbeing. And then we plan to appoint a member of the Planning Commission to the Norwich Child Care Committee. I'm going to move on to comments from the public. I am going to ask for a 2-minute limit on those comments, just because we have a lot of work to get done. So does anyone have any public comment? Stuart?
Stuart Richards, 82 Elm Street. I'd just like to take note on the minutes that are enclosed, the revised minutes that are enclosed. And I appreciate the fact that they were revised. And as far as I can tell, and subject to other people who submitted revisions, as far as I can tell, I think that they're probably accurate. And I would underscore or ask that in the future, when we have public comment and or other comments that are really germane to what's going on, that they be recorded. And a further request that when you take votes, that the people who are voting one way or the other, that they be named and identified in addition to showing the actual numbers. And I think the public would appreciate knowing that.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Any other public comments? Hearing none, let's go on to the minutes. So are there any changes to the September 10th, 2020 meeting, minute meetings? Jackie?
I'm going to just move to approve.
Okay, second. Jeff LaBelle, you second? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I think,
Jeff Goodrich says he wants some discussion perhaps.
Yeah.
but-
Oh, he does. Okay, discussion. Jeff? You're muted.
Sorry, folks. Too many buttons. I was in and out of the meeting with competing Zoom meetings, but I was curious why there were underlined sections for the minutes, which is a little unusual from my standpoint. And I was also unclear about under item 4, the second paragraph. Stuart Richards commented that the commission appears blah, blah, blah. But it says under item 11, prior to the record of comments made by Roger Arnold. So am I to understand this is language so let me restate that. I understand this is language Stuart wants to insert. Is that correct?
Rod, can you speak to that, those questions?
Yes, so underlining is an editing shorthand for adding text. And after discussion at the meeting on how to revise the minutes, it was my understanding from taking those minutes that that was the additional text that was to be added. And so that was just the way I constructed it so that you could see what the revisions were.
Good enough for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, all in favor? Unless, sorry, was there any other discussion of the minutes? I did
Just
forget. To-
A quick clarification. I want to make sure I know the motion that I'm seconding. Are we dealing with both sets of minutes or just one?
I was just discussing the first set first, and then we'll move on to the second set.
The first set being October,
September 10th.
September 10th.
September 10th.
September 10th. Okay.
Okay, Jackie?
No, I was just trying to vote.
Okay. So I believe we have a motion and a second, and just need to do a vote of everyone else. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I abstain.
Okay, Ernie, what about you? You're muted.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
Okay, so there's 4, 1, 2.
Yes.
Is
I
that-
think-
Okay,
Wait, did someone vote against it?
I thought Brian Loeb did. Brian,
Brian,
did you?
Are you an aye or a nay? You're on mute, Brian. Or he might be on childcare duty.
Yeah, he might be.
I thought that was an aye. Why would he? I mean, he's welcome to vote nay, but he didn't articulate a reason.
I didn't catch what he said. It was just kind of a noise. I didn't interpret it as a.
Oh, there he is.
I'm not. There we go.
You're an aye.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so
502.
that's 5-2.
502.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next set of minutes. So the October 16th, 2020 minutes.
Do we need a motion to approve so we can then discuss it?
Yeah,
I'm
please,
gonna
Jackie.
move to approve.
Thank you.
You're
Can I
welcome.
get a second? The second on the minutes. This is the village designation walk.
I'll second.
No, it's the October
no,
18th. No,
no.
I'm sorry. It's
Special meeting.
October 18th special meeting.
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Jeff Goodrich?
Yeah, so under item 4, the paragraph begins commissioners discussed. Next paragraph, it says Stuart Richards commented that he agreed with Ernie Ciccatelli and Jeff Goodrich, who questioned why Ernie Ciccatelli needed to recuse himself. So there's something missing between the two paragraphs. So I'd like to modify the minutes to suggest at a basic level, Ernie said, I'm not going to recuse. And Jeff said, if Ernie needs to recuse, why doesn't Jeff need to recuse? Now we can expand on that further, but I'd like to put context between paragraph 1 and 2.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion on the table right now. Jackie, are you looking to amend that motion or keeping the motion as is?
I'm not sure she heard you.
I know, I did hear you. I'm just reading what has been suggested. I don't know what this adds, but if that's what you think is essential, Jeff, you think that's essential to put that in there? I mean.
Yeah, well, Stuart makes reference to something that
Mhm.
that is either factual or not. And if it's factual, it should be in the minutes. I agree that his comment is factual.
Mhm.
And for me personally, it's important to say, well, golly, if Ernie needs to recuse, why don't I need to recuse? That was a part of the discussion.
Okay, yeah. Rod, can you handle all that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, Jeff Goodrich, I'm going to paraphrase what you just said to say, insert a sentence between these two paragraphs that says, Jeff Goodrich asked if Ernie needs to recuse himself, then why don't I? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a license, Rod, but it started with Ernie saying, I'm not going to recuse, which is
Right.
part of the record, which I'd like to see in this.
Right.
And then for me, I don't have to talk about Joe and whatever Joe said.
Right.
Let me skip over that and say, well, if that's the case, then why don't I need to recuse? And I just want that to appear in the record.
Can I add something to the discussion or wait until
Sure.
it's appropriate?
No.
Jeff Goodrich, in point 4, first paragraph, last sentence, there is a reference to Ernie declining to recuse. Is that sentence sufficient or not for you? Not enough.
Well, I would accept that, Leah. And so maybe the sentence, because there was more discussion and I'm
Right. Right.
so if Rod sort of focuses in on Joe says Ernie needs to recuse himself, and Jeff asked Joe, well, if that's the case, why don't I? And Joe didn't answer the question. We don't have to get that detailed, but
Right.
that's what I recall actually happened.
Rod, do you need any more guidance or are you all set?
If the body is comfortable with Jeff Goodrich's suggested change, then I'm okay with.
Okay, then I'm gonna, I move that, I withdraw my first motion. I move that we accept the minutes with that change.
I'll agree with Jackie with a renewed second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so everyone's in favor is what I'm seeing. Okay, great. Announcements, reports, updates, and correspondence. In your packet, you should have seen correspondence from Stuart Richards, so I will assume you've all reviewed that. Any other updates, Rod, that people need to be aware of?
Just actually, this is the point where I'd introduce the notes from the village center designation walk.
Oh, okay.
Completed at from 10 to 11:30 a.m. last Friday, and Jackie and Ernie were participants.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I got something right before the meeting from Stuart Richards and Doug Wilberding that I don't think can be entered into the record prior to the meeting. However, if we were conducting a public meeting, my assumption is that if Stuart wanted to enter what he posted on the floor, he could do that. So short of Stuart entering something on the floor, I don't think what he submitted prior to this meeting is part of this meeting.
Okay. does anyone, so we need to approve the minutes from the village designation walk?
No, you don't.
No,
Oh,
It-
no.
It was, so it was a special, it was not a
that
meeting.
was your update.
It was noticed so that members of the public could participate. And there were 2 members of the planning commission present.
Okay,
It was to host a representative from the state. And so the notes are provided to give the public a record of what transpired, but it wasn't a planning commission meeting, and it certainly didn't involve a quorum of the planning commission.
okay. Does that heading need to be taken off?
Just that it should just say notes.
Oh, it says Norwich Planning Commission special meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Okay, whatever. That's why
Right.
I was confused.
Right.
There wasn't a quorum, even if it wasn't.
it wasn't a quorum.
Yeah, true. Okay,
It
great,
was
we're
warned
gonna-
as a special meeting in case a quorum was present.
I see.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna move to number 7 now. And this is about the follow-up response to allegations that the 2020 town plan is based on actions that violated the open meeting law. Before we get started, because I do feel that we need to move to executive session, I would ask Ernie, are you willing to recuse yourself?
No.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to make a motion to move into executive session. Again, to follow up on response to allegations that the 2020 town plan is based on actions that violated the open meeting law made by Commissioner Ciccatelli, Mr. Richards, and Mr. Wilderbeen. It is expected that the commission could enter into executive session where it can be established under 1 VSA, section 313, number 1, subsection 1, that premature public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. Confidential attorney-client communications for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body. And under 1 VSA section 313, subsection 6, to consider records exempt from access to public records provisions of section 316 of Title I, provided, however, that discussion of the exempt record shall not itself permit an extension of the executive session to the general subject to which the record pertains. Is there a second for my motion?
second.
Jackie, thank you. Any discussion?
Melissa, can you just clarify, are we going to have counsel present in this executive session?
No, I don't believe that we will.
So the issue and the reason to go into executive session is that somebody will be sharing advice provided by counsel. Is that the issue?
We're going to discuss the issue and how to cure it. Yeah.
That wasn't my
How to-
question. My question was whether or not we would be considering confidential. I mean, we can
Yes.
discuss the issue here if there's not attorney-client privilege.
No, there is attorney-client privilege.
So the purpose is to protect the attorney-client
Yes.
privilege. That's why you want, okay, got it.
Rod.
Ernie has his hand up.
So just to clarify, it's to protect attorney-client privilege with regard to advice received, and it also includes attorney-client work product.
Yep, thank you.
Ernie?
I do not see any attorney-client privilege because there'll be no attorney here to be discussing things with us. And I don't think that there is any prejudice or anything that the commission or the town will suffer should this be a public meeting.
Okay.
Open meeting.
There will be work product discussed, and that is part of the concern. But
But we always discuss work product. That's our job, is to discuss work product in public.
No, but it's
Okay.
attorney-client, it's work product that is protected by the attorney-client privilege.
that we don't.
How is it, I don't understand how it's protected by attorney-client privilege.
It was provided by an attorney to the town in his capacity as an attorney. That's a privileged communication.
Yeah, but the town has the right to not doesn't
David?
have to observe attorney-client privilege.
correct, then it would be waiving it, but we're hoping not to waive the attorney-client privilege. That's the
That's-
purpose of the executive session.
You're acting like the attorney is here and he's not.
But we're looking at his work product. I mean, that, is there any other discussion, Jeff Goodrich?
Yeah, as an expert witness, is there going to be an affidavit from the attorney representing his work product? If not, I don't accept this at all. I think this is wrong. So either Joe needs
Okay.
to be here to substantiate his claims, or he needs to submit an affidavit that documents why this is attorney-client privilege. This doesn't comport with any experience that I've ever had in 40 years of work.
Okay, I'm not sure that I agree with that assessment. But at this point, obviously, we've got the discussion on the record. Does anyone else have any other additional discussion?
I would just note that I disagree with Mr. Goodrich. I think that if there is a letter that was provided by an attorney to his client, it speaks for itself, and it's protected by the privilege if it was provided in a confidential manner in order to give legal advice.
Okay, well, at this point, Ernie,
My understanding is that Melissa was charged with accepting the information and on behalf of the planning commission. And from what my understanding therefore was that she was to process the information and take whatever actions necessary and get the planning commission to approve the actions that she has taken.
and that was for the
That
previous,
way, and
meeting?
under those sort of circumstances, there would be no attorney-client privilege consideration, because she doesn't have to talk about what the attorney said. All she has to do is explain what she has done.
so we're addressing a different matter. This isn't the same matter that we discussed last time. So this is new additional information and advice. And that's why we're moving into a second, or I am made a motion to move into a second executive session. Any other comments, or are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of moving into an executive session, please say aye.
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 Okay, so that was 5-2.
But we don't know what the other people haven't had a chance to vote yet.
Oh, my brain. Okay, any nays?
Hey,
Okay, so that'll be 5-2 to enter into executive session. Jeff, are you taking the controls?
If Rod, you want me to do this, just assign me the host privilege.
Okay, let me see if I should have remembered this from last time.
Stuart has his hand up. I don't know if you want to.
Stuart has, yeah.
Can we, after we've moved into executive session, can we keep having discussion?
No, I just have a question. It's a very short question.
Okay,
I
Hold
just
on.
like, if
As
you,
a point of order, we cannot, Stuart, I'm sorry, we have to move forward. I'm sorry. The motion's done. Let's move forward.
So Jeff, I just clicked multiple participants can share simultaneously. Is
No,
that?
that's not what you need to do. You need to assign me the host privilege. You need to go up to my name in the participant list. And
Oh, that's
right-click
right.
on it and
That's
say,
right.
Make
Okay.
host.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
okay.
You've been given the honor. There you go.
Great. We are going to be going into executive session. Just give me 1 second to establish the breakout room if you would hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to open up the breakout room, and Linda and Stuart are the two that will not be included. And we will, if you hold on, we will be back eventually.
Okay, thank you.
my question was, what's eventually? Is it an hour from now, or any idea how long this is gonna last?
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Sorry.
Bye.
Okay, we have entered back into our general meeting at 7:30. Would anyone like to make a motion? Jeff LaBelle?
So I have a motion, but before that, I was wondering if the chair could articulate how she would recommend that the committee proceed, just in her view.
I would recommend doing what we did last time. Your motion of last time of appointing me to review the letter and sign it.
So just to be clear, the action that you want us to do, you want to sign a letter, and that's a letter that we
Well-
haven't seen. You know, it's not that you want us to make a motion that would have some substance in it. I see.
Well, I don't know how to have a motion with substance in it at this point without violating our attorney-client privilege. And I'm
Okay.
hesitant to discuss
So
strategy.
a motion's been made. It has to be seconded or not.
What's the
and we'll
motion?
discuss it.
No motion has been made, Jeff.
Jeff, I thought you said you would like to make a motion and then you followed it up with you'd like to hear from Melissa.
Yeah, he asked a question. He didn't make
Okay,
a motion.
so then I'm going to ask a question. I'd like to talk about what I think of this October 16, 2020 letter, and I hope we don't do this again. This October 16, 2020 letter does not reflect what I know of the Planning Commission's actions.
Okay,
do
but
it-
we are gonna, Jeff, I'm sorry to
Excuse
interrupt
me, if we're
you.
talking about this item, I didn't hear a motion, so we're on this item. May I address this item?
Can we finish the discussion of our future action within, and then move on to the ratification of the letter or non-ratification of the
Well,
letter?
I don't want to see this done again, Melissa. This is terrible.
Okay, well, it's terrible, so you do not want to have me approve?
I don't want to perpetuate our lack of acknowledgement of our conduct.
Okay,
So
well,
let's
that's
talk
your
about that.
opinion. Okay, that's your opinion. Jackie has her hand up. I'd like to hear her opinion. You're muted.
You're muted, Jackie.
There's more than one side to this story. I know feelings are running high. People have strong opinions about this, but there is more than one side to this story. At this point in our meeting, we just came from executive session. We don't have the benefit of our town attorney's advice because one of our members does not want to recuse himself.
Point of order, that is not valid.
Excuse me, I'm talking now.
I understand you
Jeff,
are talking.
Jeff,
That's-
Jeff, I'm talking now. I'm talking.
I
she's allowed
understand
to
you're
have her
talking.
perspective.
Thank you.
Let her finish.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but
Thank
look,
you.
that's a legal conclusion,
Thank you.
Melissa. Let's stop the ad hominem.
What I'd like to do is make a motion, okay? I'd like to make a motion. And I'd like to move that we appoint Melissa to review in detail the attorney's advice, take into consideration the discussion that we had in executive session and the points of view that were discussed, make any modifications to that advice that she thinks is appropriate, and to publish our second letter so we can be in compliance with the open meeting law. That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second? No second?
I mean, I will second for purposes simply of discussing it, but I don't agree with the direction.
Right, and I'm kind of in the same, wanting discussion.
It seems to me that this is different from the earlier letter in the sense that there was a procedural detail we needed to meet, which was to provide a response by a certain date. This is different in that it's proposing corrective action. And it seems to me that the corrective action that is taken by this body will not be protected by attorney-client privilege. It will be a public statement of what it is that we decide to do, and that any letter that we publish will also not be at that point a reflection of attorney-client privilege because it will be a public statement. So it seems to me there ought to be a way to discuss what in substance without using the attorney's words, what it is that we are proposing to take as corrective action, so we can decide if we agree. And then if we decide, if we all came to agreement, or if a majority of us came to agreement about what action we should take, I would at that point feel comfortable empowering, you to write the letter. But I'm not comfortable just handing a blank check about what action we should take without knowing what it is that we're proposing to do.
Okay, I still feel like we're putting the town at risk by doing that. That's my opinion. I don't, Rada, do you want to speak to that?
No, I don't believe I have anything to add at this point. I think my situation here is difficult. I'm bound by a fiduciary responsibility as an employee of the town that's paying for the attorney-client privilege. And it's not appropriate for me to compromise that.
Jeff Goodrich.
Yeah, as a resident with fiduciary concerns about our community, I agree with Jeff Lubell. So if we're going to address a cure, that means we have to admit that we violated the open meeting law, and without the help of one of however many attorneys are out there, we can develop a cure together without violating privilege.
Jeff, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I would actually like to make a motion that we endorse the letter that was sent on October 16th. I think if we could resolve that and have a discussion of that, that we might at least be able to make that progress.
Okay, if people are comfortable. Oh, sorry. Rod, did you have something to say about that?
Wait, there has to be a second or not, and then we move on.
I'll second it. I think it sounds like a good discussion.
My only friendly suggestion to Jeff LaBelle and to Jackie is to use a word like ratify or.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yep, okay.
Oh, I moved to ratify the letter of October 16th from Melissa Harwitz.
And Jackie, you had a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Jeff Goodrich?
Yeah, this letter does not reflect my notes, my emails, my knowledge of what occurred. So I object.
Any further discussion? Jeff LaBelle, I saw your hand, and then Ernie.
Yeah, I have a few things to say. First of all, I think we were in a tough position last week because we were not able to have the benefit of counsel. I think that's unfortunate. I think that the individual submitted the complaint either should have withdrawn his formal complaint or recused himself. That's my personal view, so that we could have had the benefit of town counsel. And I certainly would have done that. I would have done that. I would have provided that courtesy if I had been in that situation. But we were where we were. And I think we took a reasonable action, which was to empower Melissa to write a letter. She was empowered to write it based on the motion. I agree with the overall thrust, which is that there was no substantive violation of the open meeting law. Let me give an example of why I think it doesn't violate. Let's say we hadn't called those working groups. We simply had done everything that we had done, right? We had had people working on chapters, and they had written drafts, and they had and sort of convened these meetings, and we had come back, and nobody would have complained that there was any violation of the open meeting law, right? Because obviously individual members, without convening a quorum of the planning commission, can do whatever they want, right? So it seems to me that the use of the term working groups does not magically transform actions that would otherwise be valid into actions that are invalid. So I think that this was not the meaning of these committees or working groups or whatever you want to call them, were simply ways of organizing ourselves to get work done, and they had no power. They were not, they took no action, that was not then ratified by this body and made whole. So that's my personal view. Now, having said that, I think that there's some confusion that using the term working groups has going forward, and that we should try to avoid that confusion for the public by not doing that practice. And so I think we can take corrective action, which is to not do that without having to necessarily go back and say we made a mistake before. So I think that that's my personal view.
I think Ernie had his hand up next.
Okay. The first problem with the letter is that it uses a justification, which is that the planning commission was subordinate to the planning director, which is not my understanding at all of how any sort of government works. Democratic in the United States, anything under the Municipal Administrative Procedures Act, the APA either. So basically, that's, inaccurate. I don't know how else to phrase it. And I think that by using sort of excuse as to how, as a way of undermining the open meeting law requirements, is simply throwing gasoline on the fire. As I said, I had no one ever discussed with me in this process a lawsuit, and so I was very comfortable with that idea. I don't think that a lawsuit is useful in this case. I could be wrong. Other people could disagree with me. And that's not the point, though. I think that this letter makes it certain that we are going down the path of litigation, and I think that that letter would be rejected out of hand because of the revisionist description of how the planning commission works.
Okay.
And none of it reflects what I remember at all. I absolutely do not. That is not what I remember how this worked at all.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the word working groups.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I want everyone to have time to express their comments. So Jackie, I think you were next.
Yeah, I just want to point out the irony of the situation we're in right now. In 2018, we were under withering criticism from some of the same folks that there wasn't enough public input on the plan. And I know we went out of our way as a team to make sure we had public input. We had conducted 28 interviews with people around town. We had 13 public outreach sessions. We posted all of this on our website. We included detail on it in the plan. There wasn't anything that we were trying to hide here. We were trying to be as open as we could be. We were also operating under a copy of the rules, if you will, that we were supposed to be following. And it says, meeting means a gathering of a quorum of the members of a public body. We never had a quorum. We would work by ourselves. We would work with one other person. We never had a quorum. We never made a decision. We were gathering information. So I say all this because there's so much angst about, this idea that we violated open meeting. I don't know. I don't really see that. I didn't think we were working in that way. There were disagreements about how we were proceeding. And so in terms of remediation, I guess there's new news about open meeting law that isn't on this piece of paper that we were operating under, which is our procedures. So we're taking training. I've signed up for the training. There's an open meeting law training that that's been made available to us. I think that can be one of the remediations. But I really, and I think Jeff noted there's an adversity to the word working group. We don't want to use that word, or we will have publicly warned working groups from now on in. It sounds like what we need to do. So I understand the rule is important. I just want to say, in terms of intentionally trying to deceive anyone, that wasn't the intent. And I don't think anybody on here in our group can feel that way. I really don't. That's all I have to say.
Does Leah, you haven't had a chance to speak on this, I don't believe. Do you want to have an opportunity to speak? I don't mean to put you on the spot. So if you don't, that's fine. I just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in, I'm hearing what people are saying and I tend to digest information first. And I'm trying really hard not to, I'm trying to separate things we need to do. I think part of, I know that I had requested throughout the process that we debrief and check in and see how we're doing as a team. And so we are here now, and I'm feeling that initially this letter, I know, and it was from the last meeting we had, the numbers showed to charge you with drafting it. I'm feeling slight edits would help. I feel it's long and commits us to things that I'm concerned about. I think the working group language is important to clarify, especially given recent work that we did where we used the term working group and had to dissolve the work that was done. And so I'm mindful of following the guidance that we need to follow in the time frame we need to do to acknowledge what we can, but not overcommit. And part of that is acknowledging as a group, to the point of, for example, what Jackie made, we were having clarification of what we were following at the time, acknowledging what we can do further, but I'm concerned at the length that that just commits us to a lot more. And so I'm wondering if part of the response could be shortened. This is my general impression so far.
Leah, just to be clear, the letter was already issued. So, I mean, the letter's been made public. I just want to make that really clear.
Thank you. I'm just saying in my reaction to it, and I appreciate your clarification.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I don't agree with a single thing Jackie said, but I'd like to talk about what Jeff Lubell said relative to, I appreciate his statement from what I heard, that the Planning Commission does have ownership in this paradigm. The one thing Jeff Lubell said that I disagree with is that Melissa Horowitz wrote this letter. I'd like, if we're going to acknowledge anything, Melissa signed the letter, but Melissa did not write this letter. Unless you can tell me on your own, without any help, Melissa, you wrote this letter. She signed the letter.
I consulted with counsel. Yeah. I mean, I think we made that really clear that that was the plan. So yes, I did not draft it on my own. I consulted with counsel.
Thank you.
At this point, are we ready to vote on this motion, whether we are going to ratify? I think we have the motion out there, if I remember.
Can I just say one thing, which is I feel like, look, the letter was issued. It's been issued. It was duly issued. It was pursuant to authorization that we had given her. My view is that the appropriate thing to do would be to ratify it, to say, look, we authorized this, the letter went on. And then for us to identify what specific corrective action we want to take going forward to address the problem. I can't give you legal advice, Melissa, but it just strikes me that the identification of actions that the Planning Commission will take to correct it is not itself a protected legal construct. It's different from any advice that you might have gotten from counsel about it. But
I just don't feel like I could participate in that discussion. So if you want to like have that discussion, I think that's fine. I just don't feel like I can participate with the knowledge that I have, because I can't go back to not knowing what I know. So
well, that's up to you. I just, unfortunately, I'm not able to read your mind, and I'm certainly happy to have that conversation about corrective action. Why don't we see if anyone else has comments on this October?
Yeah, well, I did ask about any other comments, and I think we're ready to move it to a vote. We do have Stuart
Stuart can't comment.
Okay, we have a motion pending, sorry. Okay, can we get a vote? All in favor of the motion that Jackie, I believe, moved?
Jeff moved and Jackie seconded.
Jeff moved and Jackie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Brian, did we get you?
Brian, are you there? You're on mute if you are there. We might have lost Brian.
Okay, so then it was, I assume
There were four of us.
4-2.
Well, we haven't heard from the other people about their view.
Oh, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. I don't mean to assume. Any nays?
Nay.
Hey,
Okay, now we are officially 4-2 unless Brian jumps in.
Why don't we see if he comes back? I'll send him a note saying that we would like to get his view, but otherwise gonna pass either way.
Okay. Stuart, did you have a comment?
I do. Is it appropriate now that the motion has been made and the vote has been taken?
Yeah,
So
that is fine.
You're proceeding without the benefit of having seen the response that came in at 3:30 this afternoon. And
Can someone mute whoever has the background noise? It's really distracting. Thank you.
so I would encourage you, strongly encourage you, before you go forward, to look at the letter that came in at 3:30 this afternoon and have a subsequent meeting so that you can actually address some of the concerns that exist out there. And, you know, I could go through the litany of concerns. I don't know if you want to hear them. They're somewhat different than what you're addressing in the letter of October 6th.
Okay.
So,
Well, let me,
you know, rather than get yourself into hot water and get yourself in any deeper than I think you already are.
okay. I'd appreciate no threats,
It's not,
Stuart.
that's not,
I feel like I'm interpreting that as a threat. So
I
I will acknowledge that you did send a letter that didn't make it to the packet and therefore cannot be discussed at this meeting because it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Well, let me comment further then on why I think it's a mistake to go forward. Because you, in your first letter, in the letter that you sent just recently, you don't acknowledge that there's been any violation. You don't acknowledge that there's been any violation of the open meeting law. You do not acknowledge that there's been any violation in the way the town plan has been formed. The town plan was formed apparently under, these working groups were formed under Rod's direction. And I fail to see that as actually factual. It seems to me that Rod didn't appoint these people, or if he did appoint them, he was asked to appoint them by the planning commission. So in the end, the planning commission is responsible for whatever happened with regard to the working groups.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I'm not gonna, debate, but that's helpful for the other members to know. Jeff Goodrich, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, so Melissa, I appreciate what you said relative to your concern about threat, which mirrors my ongoing concerns about some members of this commission engaging in the ad hominem. That said, I think whether it's now or with public comment later, I think you're absolutely right that because Stuart's information didn't make the packet, that does not necessarily preclude him from entering his thoughts about whatever he submitted, either under this item or public comment at the end of the meeting.
Okay, well, I think the comments were submitted. They're here for consideration. And I appreciate that and would like to hear if any other commissioners have any comments or how we would like to proceed. Jeff LaBelle.
Yeah, so
Okay, again, whoever has.
Ernie, can you put yourself on mute, please? There's some background noise. Ernie?
what?
If you like, I prefer that you mute yourself.
I can't really hear you.
I'm gonna mute you, okay? So I would like to recommend a few corrective actions. I think that to reduce the possibility of confusion in the future, the Planning Commission should not use any formal working groups or subcommittees without considering them to be required to follow the open meeting law and warn their sessions. That's action number one. And action number two, I think we should encourage members of the Planning Commission to attend the upcoming open meeting laws training.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? Leah, were you trying to talk?
Oh, Jackie first, yeah.
No, I
Okay.
think that's, I just wanted to support Jeff. I think those are good suggestions.
I'm in agreement.
Okay, does anyone have any other ideas, or do you want to make a motion, Jeff?
Yeah, do you want me to, Ernie has a comment. Do you want to make the comment first before you need to take yourself off mute?
I have not been able to hear very well. I don't know what I'm hearing, and if everyone else has been hearing the same thing. It's really loud here, and I'd like to exit the meeting and then come back and see if I can, whatever this is, I've shut down all my applications, and the only thing that's on is Zoom. So I'm thinking somehow there's a short circuit here.
Ernie, you can do that. Alternatively, you could just hit the button next to the microphone and change to phone audio. Okay.
I don't.
All right.
Rod?
So
Rod, did you have some-
This is a completely unrelated point, but Jeff, can you unhost yourself? I don't know whether you have to do it or I have to do it. I'm just concerned ultimately the recording is going to end up split between the town account and you if you don't do something about that, I think.
Your host again.
It's recording against you right now. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, I would like to move to make a motion. Is that okay?
Yep.
I mean, should we wait for Ernie to come back?
Oh yeah, we can wait for him to come back.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
Do you want to restate your motion, or do you want to? Why don't you wait for Ernie to come back and then restate it? Yeah, that will be helpful for the recording and hopefully helpful for Ernie as well.
Sure. Why don't we just give him one more minute?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Stuart, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wonder if I might say a couple things while you're waiting for Ernie to come back. So doing things for the future does not cure what may have happened in the past. And that should be considered as you move forward. The problem is what happened in the past. And when I said you're getting yourself in deeper, that was not meant as a threat. It simply was a recognition of the fact that there was, in my opinion, and the opinion of other people, that there was a violation. And by not addressing the violation in the past, you're going in the wrong direction, is what I'm saying. So there's another point, and that is the town plan, and this was not addressed in your letter of the 16th. The town plan, again, in the opinion of some people, did not address the surveys that were conducted in 2005 and 2018. You don't address that. And yes, you did reach out, as Jackie pointed out, you did reach out to the public on a number of occasions to smaller groups, but you did not recognize what was said in those surveys, 2005 and 2018, where you had a total of 1,500 people who said approximately the same thing, 55% in one case. So I would encourage you to consider that and think again about some of the things that you have in the town plan and try and modify the town plan, amend it so that you recognize what people said they wanted in those surveys. And that's not an ad hominem attack. It's simply a point of view, which I think is valid.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Stuart, for
yeah, I hope you don't,
clarifying that.
yeah, don't be insulted because it wasn't meant as an insult or as a threat.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Jeff Goodrich, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's inappropriate to litigate the town plan sitting here. But I think it's fair to stay on the topic that about open meeting law violations that I believe the Planning Commission conducted.
Okay. Well, I believe we have Ernie back. So Jeff, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that the Norwich Planning Commission take 2 corrective actions with respect to the complaints that have been advanced. The first corrective action is to discontinue any use of working groups or subcommittees in the future without discontinue the use unless those subcommittees or working groups are prepared to warn their meetings in compliance with the open meeting law. Period.
Second.
Okay. And any discussion? I have one clarification.
I had 2 pieces. One was that, and the other was to encourage Planning Commission members to attend the upcoming training of the open meeting law.
Yes, I agree with that. One point of clarification: who's drafting this? Because
right now we're just it's not a letter. It's just proposing that we're just adopting a policy basically going forward.
Okay, and that, are we going to discuss additional actions, or is this the one action that the Planning Commission would take? I just want to clarify.
There's a motion on the table with respect to working groups and OML notification. I'm not going to second the open meeting law. While I encourage everyone to do that, I'm not going to learn anything new, I don't think. So I'd like to stay on the motion that was made and seconded.
Well,
okay. So the first.
Hold on. The question is whether the motion encompasses 2 things or one thing. Should we just do one at a time to just simplify it?
I'm not going to do a second on going to an educational forum that won't help me.
I'm prepared to revise my motion to just focus on the first item, and we'll do one at a time. Okay.
That's my second right there.
Does that answer your question, Ron?
Yeah, so for the benefit of everybody, but mostly me, I guess, I'm going to read the motion. I would like to recommend 1 corrective action to discontinue use of any working group or subcommittee that does not comply with open meeting law requirements with regard to noticing and warning the meetings.
I wouldn't phrase it exactly that way. I think the point is that we will not
any working
create working groups or subcommittees unless we are prepared to comply with the open meeting law requirements with respect to noticing of any meetings thereof.
Okay.
That's
I've
what
got
Rod
it.
said. So,
Yeah.
good.
Okay, so your second goes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I had a
We had some
question.
discussion.
Oh, you had a question.
And it was a clarification on that topic of the working group moving forward, and maybe it's just in the language. My understanding from a recent meeting where we discussed working groups was that was what we were going to do moving forward anyway. So it sounds like this is a continuation of, I'm just clarifying the language of like, this is, while this pertains to this particular topic, it's not the first time we've heard it. We discussed it recently. And so we are continuing that new path.
Yeah, I think what we're doing, Leah, is we're enshrining it as a formal policy by
Great.
adopting a motion,
Perfect.
which then becomes a corrective action.
I understand. I
But
guess I
yes.
just interpreted it as a policy last time we talked about it. So, but yes, I get it. It's enshrined in language. I get it. I get it.
And it's
Okay.
important for purposes of responding to this complaint.
Rod?
Just to get clear, it was 6-0, the vote?
Yeah, we lost Brian, so I believe
6-0.
it was 6-0.
Okay. And then I have another motion to make, which is to, as a corrective action, to encourage, not require, but encourage members of the Planning Commission to attend an upcoming training on open meeting law.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, did you have discussion, Jeff? You're muted.
We can say encourage, it's fine. I'm not going to vote for the motion.
Okay, but you'll.
I like
you
the
s-
language. It's fine, but I'm going
Okay.
to abstain.
Any other discussion or all in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain?
Abstain.
So we got 2 abstains,
So
so 4-2.
402?
Yes. Thank you.
Question, I have a question now. Is there a legal requirement that a letter be drafted responding to the complainants in this case and advising them of our corrective action?
Yes.
So I am about to move to empower our chair to draft that letter. And then circulate it to us so that we have the opportunity to review it and approve it by email. Before that, I wanted to see if anyone else has any other corrective actions they want to take.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I think circulating the email would be a violation of the open meeting law. So why don't we circulate whatever the letter is, the draft letter. I said email, I meant letter. Circulate the letter. Let's reconvene a week from now. We can bring our comments to that meeting and then publish. So whatever it is Melissa has, which I know she hasn't written again, and that's okay, or however Melissa wants to convey it, here's a draft letter for consideration by the Planning Commission so that we can then have a public discussion about its content and revisions.
I still feel uncomfortable just because of the legal advice that I was given. And so I do feel like this would be a breach of attorney-client privilege. And I personally am uncomfortable doing that without further consultation with the town attorney. I'm Rod, any ideas on how to move on? Can someone else draft it?
No, I agree with your position, and moreover, the follow-up letter that was transmitted via email at 3:30 this afternoon complicates the consideration of what should be in any response to meet the 14-day deadline and any subsequent action. And so what I'd say is that neither the commission nor town council or anybody else has had adequate time to reflect on the contents of the letter that was transmitted today, and that could potentially have a bearing on the response to the original complaint. And so, I guess what I'm pointing to is that the context is somewhat different. And I would say that a prudent response is to reflect on the need for further advice being provided by council. I would like to avoid another special meeting, and I would like to avoid the impasse that has been a feature of this meeting and the previous special meeting. But I think in light of the different opinions present on the planning commission, we're not likely to be able to move past that. So I think that it's a good question that I would prefer to see a formal response from council on as to whether the two items that you just voted on constitute an adequate cure going forward. The other question that's come up tonight is the question of whether there needs to be some kind of retroactive action to deal with the alleged violations of open meeting law. And so I feel like there's points of discussion that would be worth having with town council. And therefore, I don't want to compromise attorney-client privilege in doing that.
Jeff Goodrich.
Jeff Lubell was before me, but then I'd like to go.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to
I have some things to say, but I will defer to Jeff Goodrich and go after him.
Yeah, well, just quickly, I appreciate what Rod's saying at a certain level, the notion that we haven't had time to reflect on what was submitted today. Well, I haven't been granted the opportunity to reflect on the October 16 letter. And I certainly want to have the opportunity to reflect on whatever forthcoming letter that someone else is going to sign. So until we have the opportunity to reflect on the letter, the facts, what actually happened, I don't want to endorse publishing another letter.
Okay, well, it seems like Rod said that we're at a stalemate, because as far as I know, unless the motion passes, what, Jeff, did you have to say something?
I have a question for Ernie. So Ernie, it seems to me that one way forward that would allow us to break this impasse would be for you to withdraw your formal complaint. It doesn't mean that you would not continue to have the views that you have. It would just mean that, as you said, you never intended to start a legal process. That wasn't the purpose for which you submitted your letter. I would propose that if you were to withdraw your formal complaint, then you could then participate in discussions and receive attorney-client privileged information without violating the attorney-client privilege, and that would allow us to move forward. Now, that's up to you to do. I'm just offering that as a suggestion about one way to proceed.
I disagree with that. I'm just going to state my opinion on it. I feel like, the complaint went out, it was signed by Ernie. We've had to get legal counsel, and to protect the town, we need to continue. I don't think someone just saying, oh, we're not going to sue is enough to just have someone's word. I think personally, I still don't feel comfortable addressing this without a further conversation with our legal counsel.
By the way, I wasn't suggesting that we would have that conversation now. I was suggesting that if he were agreed to do that, we would then talk with our attorney about whether that would be sufficient to protect attorney-client privileges. It's a simple legal question. It's not whether we feel comfortable or not. I don't know the answer. It's just a question. I had asked that question last time, but Ernie may not be willing to do that, in which case it's moot.
As a point of order, this is not the right forum, but I appreciate what you said, Jeff.
Ernie had his hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what the whole goal for me is to make the planning commission a real planning commission again, make it better. make it more responsive to the actual majority of the people in the town, and so on. Things, a number of things, okay? And now is not the time to discuss them all. And I'll do what it takes to do that, but I'm not sure that removing my name is going to help. I have to respect Melissa's analysis too, about the actual effectiveness of my simply saying I'm taking my name off it. I mean, you know, I am part of am part of that complaint no matter what, whether I have my name signed on it or not. And I can't take that back, nor would I want to anyway. So I'm not, what my goal is to see things get better, not to go to the litigation. You propose at least one step tonight. That's a good one. I don't think it's complete, but I think it's a definite start. And that's all I can say right now. I don't think it's a good idea for me to take my name off, because I don't think it's really does anything anyways.
Can I just ask the question? Perhaps we could ask Melissa and Rod to speak with counsel and find out whether a formal written withdrawal of Ernie as a legal complainant in this proceeding would suffice to protect the attorney-client privilege in the event that we were to share communications, because he would at that point no longer be involved in a legal proceeding antagonist to the town. He would therefore not have a conflict of interest. I would guess, I'm not providing legal advice, I'm just sort of surmising that that would be the case. And if so, it wouldn't prevent Ernie from making the points he's making, just like Jeff is making them here. It's just, you would be in a different posture. You wouldn't be a formal complainant against the town. You would be part of the body that's trying to resolve the issue.
Okay, well, I will definitely, in my communication with the attorney, clarify your points. And so moving on, at this point, I do feel like we're kind of at an impasse. Am I correct? Does anyone see an action that can be taken tonight? Or I don't see one. If anyone else sees one, please chime in. Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to make a few more points here. So one is that I don't feel so comfortable signing a letter promising action without seeing the letter.
Okay.
So I want to be really, really clear. If there is a way for me to see that letter, that would be great. I don't know whether there's a way to share this individually or for us to have individual communications with counsel. I don't know how that works. I'm just saying that it's one thing to sort of sign a letter, to authorize you to sign a letter that's just formal for purposes of saying.
No, I understand, and I'm willing to go back to the attorney after hearing everyone's input and ask these very questions on how we should proceed.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, and then, I mean, in theory, if we had agreed on the actions that we're taking and it was just the wording of the letter, that I might be willing to consider sort of delegating that, you know, so that might be another compromise here. I just don't want to sign a blank check as to actions without seeing those actions. Okay. So at a minimum, we could agree, you know, if we said, we're authorizing you to sign a letter that includes these 3 actions and no more, I would be willing to consider that, but I'm not willing to sign a blank check.
I understand completely. We're in a weird posture right now.
I get it.
And that's, you know, otherwise. So we can do that. So does anyone, Rod?
So I just want to raise 2 points. So, and I don't mean to rush people on either of these things, but before we move on, the question of when to schedule a special meeting, because it is the case that to comply with the requirements of open meeting law, a formal response needs to happen within 14 days. And so because of tonight's discussions, we're not able to get to that point. So people need to think about when in the following week they could, and what And I guess a sub point or a related question is, what material or answers to questions would you need to make that an effective meeting? And then just to sort of as a response in part to Jeff LaBelle's recent remarks, the letter, the follow-up letter, the letter that needs to be delivered within 14 days also responds to the claims in the original complaint as to whether the town plan is invalid because of the alleged violations of open meeting law. So there's still, if you like, material that's subject to attorney-client privilege related to that point, not the point that we've been addressing, which is what, if any, cures are going to be offered, right? And so for obvious reasons, it's definitely not appropriate to discuss the content of that part of the letter here. But I want to remind people that because of the broad nature of the original complaint, and that it's two parts. One was that there was the original complaints alleged infractions of the open meeting law, and that therefore the town plan was invalid. So far, the letter that went out over Melissa's signature addressed whether or not there were infractions to the open meeting law and outlined what would be appropriate cures moving forward. The next letter that we were supposed to be discussing tonight and we'll need to discuss will address in further detail the cure, but also needs to address this other question of the validity of the town plan, which is subject to attorney-client privilege also.
Jeff.
Leah had her hand up too.
Leah, do you want to go
No,
first?
no, I'll come back to it.
Okay,
Keep going.
Jeff Goodrich.
Yeah, so if we need to take a vote or make a decision about the validity of the town plan, I'm not sure how to interpret what Rod said exactly. I think that's beyond our purview. My personal view is the town plan's valid, regardless of what the Planning Commission did or didn't do. The select board proffered a town plan and went through a public notification process, and the RPC essentially ratified the town plan. So regardless of what I think, regardless of what others think, I personally don't think the town plan is invalid, regardless of our conduct as a commission. That said, I don't think we're in a position to legitimately say whether it's valid or not. I mean, if we want to poll members and say, do you think it's valid or not? I don't think that gains us anything.
Okay, thank you. Jeff LaBelle.
Yeah, I guess it's a question for Rod and others on the commission. And you may say you want to talk about it with council, and that's fine, it's up to you. But I guess the question is whether there would be any value in having some kind of motion that ratifies the validity of the town plan, notwithstanding the allegations that were raised in the in the complaint. Because if there is value in making that kind of motion, or frankly that kind of statement in the letter, we might as well just make a motion, get it over with, and I'm certainly prepared to make such a motion and vote for it. But I just don't know if that's needed or whether that would be useful.
I don't know. I mean, I personally don't see any harm.
Let's
I
do it.
don't know if anyone else has any other feelings, but if you want to make that motion, go ahead, please. Sorry, Ernie.
The question I have, and part of this is due to all the noise that was being made when voting and stuff took place earlier. Did the Planning Commission vote to ratify the response that has your signature on it?
We did.
Yes.
Okay. So then the facts that are contained that the town alleges are what it considers to be true, correct?
The letter was ratified.
Okay. Okay, that's all I want to know right now.
Okay, thanks. Good. Okay, Jeff, do you want to make this motion or what do you want to do?
Rod, were you trying to say something about this before? No? I'm happy to make the motion. We can then just talk about it. You know, the motion is, you know, having considered the allegations included in the letter from the 3 complainants regarding the potential for open meeting law violations in connection with the prior town plan, the planning commission nevertheless affirms the validity of the town plan.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Hey,
1 nay. And all right, that's 5-1. Thank you.
Rod has something.
Yes,
Rod.
Rod, you're on mute.
Hey, Jeff, can you just, it doesn't have to be beautiful, just send me in an email what you just
Sure.
said as a motion.
Yeah, you also have the recording, but I'm happy to send to you.
Yeah, great.
Great. So do we need a motion to move on and consult with our town? I'll consult with our town attorney and we'll have a special meeting.
Just-
Although we still don't know when the special meeting is. Rod, did you want to go ahead and try and schedule that right now?
How about next Thursday?
I need to look at my book.
That's fine with me.
So it's October 29th. Is there another meeting that's going to conflict, Rod?
I one of the beauties of Zoom and the huge town account, which is controlled by one person, is that I can't see that easily. Let me just get a glance. It appears that there isn't a conflict, but you know, I'm not party to all the negotiations that would have gone on this afternoon before it hit the calendar. So I'll check with Miranda in the morning. Are we assuming 6:30 on the 29th? Okay. And I'll check with town council and with regard to their availability and support also. I'm assuming that people are expecting some level of participation from them, or at least in the lead up to it.
No, hey, I just want to have the document ahead of time that I can review, like Jeff Lubell said.
Right.
And comment on, whatever that is.
Okay.
Right.
And we'll talk to town council about what would be involved in doing that. Okay. So Thursday, 6:30, that's Thursday the 29th, 6:30. Okay, thank you, everybody. I will reach out to Brian Loeb and make sure that he's aware. I don't know what his situation is right now, but okay.
Jeff Goodrich?
Yeah, other than public comment, I'd like to reach a point of adjournment for personal reasons.
Okay, I just have one thing to ask. Going back to number 6. It was on the agenda to appoint a member of the Planning Commission to the Norwich Child Care Committee, and Brian Loeb has volunteered. He would like to hold this position, and I wanted to run it by everyone in the Planning Commission if anyone has an issue with Brian holding that position. Jackie?
I think that's great. He wrote the book on it, so he's an excellent representative.
Thank you.
No objection.
I have no objection either. Just want to ask, does anyone else want to compete for that slot before we assign it to Brian?
No objection, but I have a question, Melissa.
Hasn't he got the most kids?
Yes.
I thought that's what
He
it
has
went
at least
by.
11, as far as I can tell from the Zoom chatter in the background.
He's the most qualified.
by
Just,
far.
Melissa, just for clarification, the request came from him. It's just that he's not on the call. I just want to be
Yeah,
sure.
he emailed me to tell me
Great.
that he might not be able to stay and that he would
Great.
like this position.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So we will appoint Brian Loeb to that committee.
We don't need a motion, or do we need a motion?
No,
I'm
I,
not,
Move that Brian be appointed to the Child Care Committee from the Planning Commission.
second,
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So looking unanimous. All opposed? Luckily none. Okay, so now I think we're ready to go to other business. Is there any other business? Rod, do you got anything? Okay, anyone else? Seeing none. Future meeting schedule and agendas. We did talk about our special meeting for next week. Ernie?
Originally, I had asked for a discussion, but it can't be next week. But I
For the
mean,
next
on the next
agenda.
oh, okay,
Yes, and it was on this agenda until it
I
had to
understand.
change.
I believe you.
Okay, anyone else?
A discussion of what, Ernie?
I'm sorry.
I want to discuss the fact that the planning commission is not deliberative, that we are not that, you know, and now it's been put out in writing that we're subordinate to the planning director, and issues of that nature. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you.
And Leah, I did consider that part of the debriefing, so I thought that that could be both together discussing it, because the debriefing was also part of this agenda originally. So if that works for you, that will be on next time. Anyone else? I can't even remember what the other item that I had that I cut. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you just covered one of my chief concerns, which was the debriefing that Leah's been talking about. I'd like to put on the agenda how we come about deciding agendas, because I'd like it to be a collective process. I want to address things like, you know, conflict of interest and some other things that are being said. I think they're important topics to talk about. I'd like
in
to be
terms of agendas, or are you asking to add to the agenda a conflict of interest conversation?
I would like to put on an agenda the question of conflict of interest, because there are members of the public that have made statements about my firm, I would say me, and Brandy Saxon, that I think are worthy of discussion in terms of what the real term means, among other things. So my broader question is, how do we assign agendas? And if I can write an email to chair, vice chair with some assurance that those topics can get on an agenda, that will probably suffice for me.
Okay. I mean, I do ask at the end of every meeting, and I am open to emails. Ernie emailed me. So please just communicate to me and I can put it on the agenda. Okay, future meetings. So we had decided last meeting that, you know, besides our one next week, we have one on Thursday, November 12th at 6:30 and Thursday, December 10th at 6:30. And that's all I've got. Can I get a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any,
Do the last public comment on the agenda, I don't think.
I'm sorry, comments from the public. I'm sorry. I did have my handwriting all over it with the agenda items. Do you have a
So,
comment?
yeah, I'm hoping that you have the latest letter in response to your letter of the 16th that you will
Yes.
consider as correspondence for this next meeting.
Yes, I confirmed about that in an email to you at, just before the meeting
Right,
started.
I'm just reconfirming your confirmation.
Okay, that
this
is
is a special-
reconfirmed.
Yeah, this is a special meeting rather than a regular meeting. Your email said it will be considered at the next regular meeting, but great, thank you. And the other thing that I would like to encourage people to consider at this next meeting is actions to cure what occurred during the town planning process. It's not only looking forward, you need to look backward as well. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Stuart. And I guess because I did leave that out, can I get another motion to adjourn? If no, there's no other public comment.
So
Linda,
moved.
second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everyone. See you next
Good
week.
night. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
On to the
Thanks
debate.
to all of you.